actually have a drop in the benefit that these very sick patients should get. Because you are trying to examine a patient in serious heart failure, somebody with cough and catarrh is knocking on your door, telling you you're wasting time. Why won't he be angry? He wasn't sick enough to be in a teaching hospital. But because our system has collapsed, teaching hospital is now a primary care center, which is not supposed to be. So what do we do? It is simple. I have given them, there are 3 things we will do today, and the system will start to change. 1, fund the healthcare sector well. You don't give a developing healthcare sector 4.5% of budget. It cannot work. What is 4.5%? We don't even have facilities. That's capital budget and recurrent budget at 4.5% of the annual budget. This year, I think it's 5.75, and everybody is clapping. 5.75 cannot be acceptable because, you see, I keep saying this. Government likes committees, but the problem is they don't even implement the committees. So they end up paying people sitting allowance, and they still jettison whatever came out of it that is supposed to lead us forward.
Hippocrates of Kos, also known as Hippocrates II, was a Greek physician of the classical period who is considered as one of the outstanding figures in the history of medicine. Once said, "Wherever the art of medicine is loved, there is also a love of humanity." Now, second quote is from Chinua Achebe, Nigerian novelist, poet, and critic, who is regarded as the dominant figure of modern African literature. And he stated, "I find Nigeria very frustrating. I am not alone in this. There are many Nigerians abroad, as you know. The brain drain is just incredible. And when we talk to one another, and there is a certain sense of frustration, but I struggle not to let the frustration degenerate into despair." Okay. Our next quote is from Sir James Paget, an English surgeon and pathologist who is best remembered for naming Paget disease and who is considered as one of the founders of scientific medical pathology. His famous works included lectures on tumors and lectures on surgical pathology. He once stated, "Being a doctor offers the most complete and constant union of those 3 qualities which have the greatest charm for pure and active minds: novelty, utility, and charity." Absolutely spot on. Now let's see how all of this could relate to what we'll be discussing today. Very warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Nigeria has about 24,000 actively licensed physicians caring for its over 200 million population as a result of brain drain in the country. The Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, has stated. The NMA president, Dr. Ojinmah Uche, stated this in Abuja during a policy dialogue on Nigeria's health sector brain drain and its implication for sustainable child and family health service delivery. He said this gives a horrible true ratio of approximately 1 doctor to 10,000 patients ratio. He said, end quote, "Only 1 doctor is incredibly available to treat 30,000 patients in some states in the south, while states in the north are as worse as 1 doctor to 45,000 patients. In some rural areas, patients have to travel more than 30 kilometers from their boards to get medical attention where available, thus Nigeria making access to healthcare a rarity." Ojinmah said based on the World Health Organization established minimum threshold, a country needs a mix of 23 doctors, nurses, and midwives per 10,000 population to deliver essential maternal and child health services. He blamed the brain drain on poor funding of the healthcare sector, stressful medical education, non-existent house job slots, difficulty in gaining employment, poor remuneration, unnecessary and healthy interprofessional rivalry, insecurity, amongst others. The Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Karu Omotayo, said that Nigeria currently has the third highest number of foreign medical doctors working in the United Kingdom after India and Pakistan. The Minister of Health, Osage Ehanere, represented by Sydney Ibenusi, that's the Director of Trauma, Emergency and Disaster Response, said the emigration of trained and healthy or highly skilled health workforce was of great concern as it put together strain on the already challenged health system. Meanwhile, you recall sometime last year, that's September to be precise, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, stressed that there was nothing wrong with doctors leaving Nigeria. He also stated and was quoted as saying that, "So, we shall make do with what we have. Yes, surplus doctors, we have surpluses. I keep on telling them that we have not deployed our medical manpower proportionately and adequately as we should." So, I'm sure you're all surprised as well as I am as to why the complaint of rarity is still cropping up just after 1 year of making that statement. That's from the Minister of Labour. Now, did they all jackpot at the same time? And even if they did, why? My guest on the show today is Dr. Uche Ojinmah, President, Nigeria Medical Association, NMA, and he will be in the best position to answer all of this question. I will see you on the other side. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the conversation. We are reaching you from Kaftan's television here in the nation's capital, Abuja. You just joined us, you're right on time for the interview. I guess on the show today is Dr. Uche Roland Ojinmah. He is the president of Nigerian Medical Association, NMA. It's good to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for lending us your time.
Well, what do I do?
All right, now let's get started the conversation. Now, you quoted as saying that Nigeria has about 24,000 actively licensed physicians caring for its over 200 million population as a result of brain drain in the country. So my question is, a lot of people have been asking, how exactly did you come about the figure? And I'm going to ask you two questions and I'd like you to unbundle them in one breath. Now, how exactly did you come about the figure? And then secondly is, does this actually also relate to both the private and the public institutions?
Thank you very much. When we say actively licensed, it means those that renew their practicing license. And that's the people we call doctors. Anybody, if you're practicing without a valid license, you are not a doctor to us. You're a quack, essentially. Okay. So our statistics is drawn from those that have their license renewed to practice for this year. Okay, relative to what we had in 2020, 2021, when it was about 20 million. The current estimate was about 24 million. Though maybe if you go to, you see, it's like, it could be a moving target sometimes, because by the time I gave you that figure, maybe some people may have registered again.
Okay.
Now to practice. So the final authority is the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. Whatever they say is the final authority on this issue of those who can practice. So when we say practice actively licensed, whether private, public, wherever, missionary, they are all given the same license every year. On 31st of this year, all the license for this year will expire. So from 1st of January, we will now know those who are actively licensed to practice.
Okay, so does this actually cut across both the private and the public
health definitely sector? Yes. License is license. It does not distinguish where you practice. Maybe if you follow the practice address, you will know where the person is. Okay. Every medical doctor in Nigeria is supposed to be renewing their license to make sure they are still up to date with what we call the continuing medical or professional development programs. There are certain points you're supposed to get in a year for you to have your license renewed to practice for the next year. So it is vital to us, because any doctor practicing without a valid license is a quack.
Oh, interesting.
That's
So
the
that
truth.
means the person must register with the Nigerian
Medical
Medical
and
Association.
Dental Council of Nigeria.
Okay.
When it comes to license,
Okay. Okay.
it is the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. But when it comes to an association to which all doctors belong, it is the Nigerian Medical Association.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you also quoted as stating that only one doctor is incredibly available to treat 30,000 patients in some states in the south, while states in the north have worse cases as they have one doctor to 45,000 patients. Now, this is quite disheartening, Dr. Uche. Now, so with all of this, is it actually, are we going to put then ascribe all of this issue to the massive exodus of brain drain only?
No, not really. You know, when we say brain drain, there is external brain drain and there's internal brain drain.
Okay.
Okay? As it concerns Nigeria today, internal brain drain is towards federal government institutions because they pay better and they pay regularly. While the doctors leave the state-owned institutions, because a lot of them, except few states, like in the south axis and a few in the north, that pay very well. Most states still pay outdated salaries, like counties and stuff like that. And it's not even regular. So a whole lot of times when federal government-owned institutions call for employment, they move from states to these places.
Oh, okay.
Similar things also happen in missionary hospitals and, of course, private hospitals.
So even private hospitals?
Yeah.
Also private hospitals?
Of course, people leave them to move into better paying employments, which is majorly federal government. And of course, you know that based on the poor state of amenities in the rural areas, doctors also leave those areas to move to the urban area. So there is a rural-urban migration that is actively going on in the medical sector as far as doctors are concerned. And now there are those that leave Nigeria totally to go internationally to other nations to practice. These are the different phases of brain drain. Now, what I mean is this. If you come to Abuja now, you may have 1:5,000 or 1:3,000 because there is an aggregation of doctors in Abuja, especially from the northwest area, since the onset of the Boko Haram incident. And with what is going on in the, northeast, with what is going on in the northwest now about banditry and kidnapping, many of them will also gravitate towards Abuja, which is safe. Some will also go to Lagos. So places like Abuja and Lagos may not be your perfect example for knowing the appropriate ratio of doctor to patients in Nigeria. But when you go to certain states now, like Zamfara, I'm sure you may not have there are some local government areas that may not have a doctor at all.
Sure.
So the ratio there is 0 is to whatever is there. So this variation is what I try to put across there. So if you come to Abuja, you may have 1:2,000 or 1:5,000. And as you move to Lokoja, Kogi axis, you may have 1:8,000, 10,000 or 15,000. And then you go further to those areas that are seriously disturbed, like Zamfara area, you may have 1:100,000.
Oh, wow.
That is the truth. That's the way it is.
So how do we deal? Because now, so that these doctors don't break down and become the patients at some point.
Well, even me as the president of NMA, I need help too. Everybody is under stress. That's the truth, because if they feel pain, it bounces off me. Definitely, they will call you to complain and stuff like that. Look, since I became president 5 months ago, this may be about if not to be conservative, 30 times I've had interviews to discuss this matter. I've presented papers. So it's not as if we are not saying, but they are not hearing.
Who are they?
The government, obviously. They are the major players in the health sector, because our health sector is public sector dominated. It is not like it is private sector dominated. So I'm talking to the government, federal government, state government. Look, state governments are the worst. In this country, we all concentrate on Abuja. We don't look at what is going on in the states. The governors do what they like. In Abia State, somebody refused to pay health workers for 25 months. Until we threatened to shut down every system. He paid 7 months. So he has the money.
Oh, wow.
And the man is not losing weight in any way. So he cannot say he's sacrificing. So it's just a decision to staff them because he doesn't care about what the health indices of his state come out to be. So I want us to focus on state governments. You go to different states, most of the government hospitals, what they do is that they rush to build one teaching hospital and they think that is it. States, I repeat again, should focus on general hospitals. It has more massive carrying capacity for day-to-day sicknesses. Unlike a teaching hospital, which we have bastardized. In the places where things are done properly, teaching hospital is the last point of a patient that refused to recover. He has gone to a lower place, it didn't work. General hospital, it didn't work. Comprehensive health center, it didn't work. They now send him to a teaching hospital. So when you go to a classical teaching hospital or the tertiary health institution, maybe research-based or teaching-based, they don't have too many patients. But have those patients, you have to waste time on.
Okay.
So what happens now is our primary healthcare center have collapsed. Secondary healthcare center, which are the general hospitals, have collapsed. So everybody heads to either a federal medical center or a teaching hospital. So the doctors that are recruited are supposed to take out time to deal with the complicated cases and are treating malaria.
Oh, wow.
So you actually have a drop in the benefit that these very sick patients should get. Because you are trying to examine a patient in serious heart failure, somebody with cough and catarrh is knocking on your door, telling you you're wasting time. Why won't he be angry? He wasn't sick enough to be in a teaching hospital. But because our system have collapsed, teaching hospital is now a primary care center, which is not supposed to be. So what do? It is simple. I have given them, there are 3 things we will do today and the system will start to change. 1, fund the healthcare sector well. You don't give a developing healthcare sector 4.5% of budget. It cannot work. What is 4.5%? We don't even have facilities. That's capital budget and recurrent budget at 4.5% of the annual budget. This year, I think it's 5.75, and everybody is clapping. 5.75 cannot be acceptable because, you see, I keep saying this. Government likes committees, but the problem is they don't even implement the committees. So they end up paying people sitting allowance, and they still jettison whatever came out of it that is supposed to lead us forward. This same Nigeria hosted in 2001 heads of states of African Union to seek a solution to the healthcare sector of Africa. And they all agreed that to find a way forward, they need to dedicate 15% of the annual budget of each nation to the health sector. Because we still have structures to build. We have equipment to buy. We have people to train. And of course, we still have staff to pay. So we agreed that it's 15%. Everybody went home. Only a few places like Rwanda and I think Kenya are even doing it. Nigeria, it was signed in Abuja. It's called the Abuja Declaration of 2001. Since then, we have only gotten as far as 6%. And we expect magic. So we should fund, every day they keep talking about medical directors. Chief medical directors are not doing well. How can you work? I came for this interview now with you. You people rolled out cameras and rolled out everything. What if they sent you without camera? How will you make it work? So that's what government is doing. They send people to work without the things they will use to work. So they should fund the health sector properly so that we set up a structure that is useful to everybody. Secondly, they should remunerate people well. It's not because we don't make laws that nobody cares about us. It's not because we don't sit over electoral tribunals. Nobody cares about us. We sit over the life of people of Nigeria. And if it means anything to anybody, they should understand that you need to pay someone who takes care of these people well. If you don't pay them well, they will go where they are paid well. And there are many places. The world is not a global village. So to live is easy. And to return is easy. So it's a fluid market. You don't want me in Nigeria? I go to Kenya, where they pay me well. Or I go to South Africa. I go to Canada. Canada is looking for people to populate the land. The next thing is this issue of job satisfaction. Salary is not job satisfaction. It's part of it. But job satisfaction comes from going to work and going home after work, leaving, knowing you have given what you are supposed to give for that day. We get patients today, we know what to do for. We don't have equipment to do it. It takes your happiness away. Tell the person, please manage, take paracetamol, when you know that this is what I can do to solve this problem. And then I as a person, I think Nigeria lacks a sense of aesthetics. Either our leaders don't understand what they call aesthetics. You came into this place. If these paints were all chapped and there is mud on the floor, you won't be comfortable here. But that's the kind of place they tell us to use as hospitals. You come into a hospital where I'm supposed to see patients, there's no air conditioning, there's no filtration of the air, there is no rug, there is no tile on the floor. You meet cracked floors, tables that are chipped. Some of us use things to hedge the seat on which they sit to see patients. I mean, for God's sake, if they build a good hospital that is clean, would they die? So they should make the hospitals conducive for the patient and for the workers. And then the security situation is also scaring people away. If they ever kidnap you in life, you will not stay. Because if they catch you a second time, you may not survive it. You see, people think kidnap is all about, when they release you, you go. There's a post-traumatic stress disorder that can occur, and somebody cannot sleep anymore. And they will not feel safe even leaving their house. And if you are their relative and you go out, they will never rest till you return. After a while, they see the best thing is to leave this environment. So these 4 things I have enumerated. 1, security, job satisfaction, remuneration, and appropriate funding of the healthcare sector. If they do it, it will work.
But isn't the other part with the remuneration relative? Because now you talked about the federal government hospitals, they pay better, and then while the state do not pay better. So isn't that relative?
When I say better, it is within the context of a worst picture. It's like if somebody had an accident and lost a limb and the other person died, he felt better, ain't he? But he lost a limb. The salary federal government pays today was actually conceived in 2009. Conceived in 2009 with the agreement that it will be reviewed in 5 years, which was 2014. Until today, they pretend that they don't know it's time to review it, despite several reminders from NMA and several tenures of NMA leadership. Now, for the states, look, let me tell you, sometimes I don't blame ASU for losing it and insisting on things being done the way they want it properly done. But you see, in this country, a patient dog starves to death. They don't care about you unless you make noise.
Scream.
You must scream. You must attack somebody. Then they will say, take care of that guy. So because our states, if you go to the states, some of them appoint 1,000 special assistants. And they pay them every month. But when you talk about paying doctors and other health workers, they tell you there is no money. People are earning millions, 30 million, 10 million in a month. And some other person is taking about 700,000 naira, less than $1,000 a month. In this inflation, between 2014 and today, there's been a 400% depreciation in the worth of the naira. There's been a 400% depreciation. So think of somebody who gave a salary in 2009, when dollar to naira was about 80 naira to $1. And today you're talking about almost 800 naira. So you're talking about how many? 100% depreciation of whatever that salary was when you gave it. That is what we are clapping for federal government for. So he's a king, he's a confusion. That's the truth.
Now, we'll actually talk about that later on the show. But then, this massive brain drain is not a phenomenon that is new to Nigeria. Because we recall that in 1982 and 1984, our doctors were moving to Saudi Arabia and the United Kingdom. And then we also had in 1990 that they were moving to United States. So why is it so prominent now? Why are we screaming about it?
Thank you very much. There's something new that wasn't there before. Those years you talked about, some elderly doctors went to make money to retire. The young ones were around. The new doctors didn't leave. They continued with their residency program and training to become specialists and continue to train the medical students. But today, everybody is going. A doctor that graduates today, if you tag them, a cohort, let us say 1,000 graduate today, you tag them. In the next 1 year, you may not have up to 500 around. That's why we're screaming. It used to be that maybe later in my career, I would say, look, I'm about retiring. I don't have much. Let me go to Saudi Arabia and get some money, or go to Oman or Qatar, make some money and come back. Few will say, oh, we are relocating, maybe ear health or some other things. Let's relocate to US and UK. It's no longer what is going on now. We are now producing doctors for export. Every set that is coming up, they already have a link, a gang of how they will go. You go, I will come after you, and the next person goes. So we are not just losing the specialists, we are losing the people who used to replace them. That's why it's different.
So how much will this also affect those that are in housemanship?
Well, fundamentally speaking, you know that a consultant is required for a housemanship to take place. A certain number of specialists you must have for you to be able to say you carry out housemanship training. When you don't have specialists anymore, or when they are depleted, automatically that supervisory role of the older ones will be negatively affected. And so you know the impact. Somebody will become a mechanic without having appropriate tools. So when our people understand that in the next 10 to 15 years, some of these problems will now manifest in a different dimension, maybe they will understand what we are talking about.
So a lot of people actually stated that maybe it is this Jackpot mentality that is on board. Is that what it is for most doctors, especially?
You see, Jackpot mentality is a product of a difficult terrain and environment. Nobody just wakes up and says, I'm jackpotting in that, if I use that word. I keep saying, talking about myself, there are so many things we don't do right here. I'm sure if you did your service, after service, there's that period you were lost. Where do I go to? What do I do? We must find a solution to that period. That when you finish this, you want to do this, you go and do this, and then moving from there. We need a solution. So Japa mentality is a pan-national attempt at searching for greener pasture by everybody. That is the truth. Those in a computer section are also jackparing. Even bankers. Everybody's going. Very soon, maybe we'll keep our money in our houses. And everybody stays. So what I want to tell you is that, yeah, this brain drain is a part of the jackpot situation. But the jackpot situation is just a search for greener pasture. It's not as if people wake up and say, oh, I want to jackpot. No. Some of us wanted to leave when we graduated, and we didn't know what to do with ourselves. But luckily for some of us, we got placement for specialist training as we are planning to leave, and we didn't leave. Okay. So there are also some others that are like that. If they can get a placement, because one of the problems in our sector now is getting a place to start your specialist training. So many people out there have passed the initial stage, what we call primaries, which is like your entrance exam into residency training. But now, you see, it's so funny that I would say it's funny, even though I'm a trainer too, but sometimes you think out of the box and say, this doesn't look tidy. Somebody has passed your primary exam, which is the entrance exam into residency, but you still conduct another exam to take them into the residency because they're trying to screen. There isn't enough space. If not, everybody with a primary certificate should be given a placement to start residency training. So government should understand that they need to bring in private sector to help. So that we also have private sectors opening up hospitals. A lot of Nigerians don't understand that health sector is a viable sector. Outside this country, India, you're looking at $1 billion medical tourism industry, and we don't have any stake. $1 billion every year, and nobody is tapping into it. So I think the private sector should think about it.
But then you have a lot of people that have argued that bringing in the private sector will now lead to mushroom hospitals everywhere, in every nook and cranny.
No, we already have private sector. But what I'm talking about is organized private sector. Because you have private hospitals now already functioning. But when we have organized private sector, not like those highbrow ones in Lagos that take care of only those who can pay 10 million and above. No, I mean a well-organized private sector, multi-specialist setup that can take the common man and the very rich man. We need that kind of system. Nothing says that they cannot open a wing for the extremely rich and another wing for those who can manage.
Is that doable in Nigeria?
It's doable.
Okay.
We can do it. So they should not just focus only on the gain. You should also remember that there's a bit of a social service involved.
All right. Now, I recall that some time ago, there used to be one of the bone of contention with the medical doctors and the resident doctors with regards to they were asking for hazard allowance, COVID-19 hazard allowance. So is that still a major bone of contention even up until now?
Hey, look, we are peace-loving people in the Medical Association. Why I want to reiterate this is, in case we are pushed to react tomorrow, let it not be lost on anyone that we are peace-loving. For a very long time, I'm sure Nigerians never heard of doctors going on strike until recently. It's because we are dying. We couldn't just do any other thing. And nobody will help you if you don't help yourself in this country. There are places it could be, and tanker drivers, petrol tanker drivers could say, oh, doctors should not go on strike. We'll go on strike for them. We will accept such an offer so that when it is necessary, they stop supplying fuel while we continue working until you negotiate with us. But nobody will do that for you. But they tell you you are an emergency service, you shouldn't do anything, and essential, and I'm dying. So the hazard allowance, what happened was that when COVID came, it's like we're being sent to war without ballistic helmets. We didn't even have adequate PPEs, personal protection equipment, but we are trudging on. And so we now say, no, this risk is heavy. You need to protect us a bit. If we take ill, so many of us contracted COVID, took ill, we're able to isolate ourselves because we recognize the signs and symptoms early. You just shut your door. You stay indoors, nobody comes up. You open the door and drop whatever you have and go, and stuff like that. And so people suffered from COVID privately. And so government finally now said, okay, they will pay something. But in their usual style, it wasn't more than that first tranche, and everything disappeared. And now we raise the issue. It should bring the conscience of an average Nigerian that for decades, the Nigerian doctor and other health workers were paid 5,000 naira as hazard allowance. That means in case you contract hepatitis B, HIV, hepatitis C, COVID, Ebola, whatever, please take this and treat yourself. And that's 5,000 naira for long. And some people were earning hardship allowance of millions. And I don't know how hard it is to sit and discuss. But they take hardship allowance for sitting in one air-conditioned chamber and stuff like that. So we now said, no, we can't continue. We need to up this matter. Well, after much argument and strike by the resident doctors, government made it 40,000 for the highest earning person in the health sector a month. Well, it wasn't okay. It's not as if that is what we wanted. But there's no need continuing to punish an average Nigerian. And so, well, in principle, we have accepted it. But we'll still continue to tell them it's not right. They should make it reasonable, such that in case anything goes wrong, fine, we sort ourselves out. Because nobody comes to help.
It is saddening. Let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation with Dr. Uche Roland. I will see you shortly. Those who are into traditional medicine, is it actually possible to bring them into the fold?
To become, well, the alternative medicine is in the fold. The only problem is that many of them don't want to really go and do proper alternative medicine. They want to go and bring Digbologist certificates and say they have read. Alternative medicine have a program, a curriculum, and duration, and is regulated by Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. So if you want to practice alternative medicine, go and learn it properly, then get certified, and you'll be registered to practice. Traditional medicine for now has no clear-cut definition. As we say in joke, it's of no fixed address. What is the dose? Why would one medicine treat headache, waist pain, diarrhea, fibroid, everything? So they should stop joking and get serious.
You just joined us. This is The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's Television here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you've actually missed out on a whole lot, but then you can still join in the conversation. Our guest on the show today is Dr. Uche Roland Ojinmah. He is the president of Nigerian Medical Association. And we've actually talked about, you've actually opened our eyes to a lot of things, like opened up a lot of things to us. But then, over time, we keep having this policy dialogue on Nigeria's health sector, brain drain, and its implication for sustainable child. That's the one that you had recently, for sustainable child and family healthcare service delivery. Because this is actually not the first of its kind. So, and then we keep hammering on the same thing every time. Then who exactly is hampering on the effort of the other person?
Yeah, as it pertains to general upgrade of the health system.
Yes.
Look, government is in charge of everything.
So government is suffering government or the people?
No, they are suffering the people. They are suffering the people. Because now they have started campaigns. Just go and listen. Of course, we are insisting they are going to come and talk to us, those presidential candidates. If they like, let them run. But when it's over, we will announce what we think based on the policies presented to us, who we think has a viable health policy for this country.
Okay.
Yeah, we're planning to bring them to our National Executive Council meeting in Asaba in the second week of December. We are going to invite them. If they like, let them come. If they like, let them not come. But the era is gone when I support you because we are namesakes.
You're from my tribe.
We are from the same tribe. We have the same religion. It doesn't make sense to me anymore. Because when it's time to share money, those things don't make sense to them too. So what I'm saying in essence is this. We need a proper health sector policy where somebody will say, in this first year, this is what I'm going to do in the health sector. Second year, this. To me, the drive to include the private, organized private sector is a viable option to be exploited by any of them. Let them, if they don't know what to do, they can invite people to sit down and help them generate a blueprint. The India is what it is today because of the organized private sector that has stepped in. And like I reminded them at that dialogue, it doesn't look funny that we have Bank of Industries, we have Bank of Agriculture, we have Bank of Trade, whatever, but there's no health bank. So how will you now be able to run the industry if you're down? Where things are done properly. It's a matter of putting aside a certain percentage of our accruals and push it into a health bank such that if you want to open, we draw specifics on how you can draw this money and how we will recover it because it's not Father Christmas issue. In some places, honestly, when government gives you the loan, they post an accountant to work with you. So as your money is coming in per day, they are taking their money back. And before you know it, you stand. And we have so many people working in these ministries that could be posted to get busy and not just hear kola nut every day when they come to office. So they should think about a health bank. If you are thinking of government doing it alone, they don't have the political will and they don't even have the capacity financially. You can hear every official telling you government is broke. Government is broke. They no longer hide it. Before when you say they say, shh, don't say that. Now they are announcing it themselves. Government is broke. And so like that, even though I don't believe it. I don't believe it. When the government is broke, we know what happens. Look at Ghana. It's almost happening there. They are broke. Things are getting to a head. So let our government be humble and be serious enough to put people together in sincerity and say, give us a way forward, and we'll find a way forward.
Now, here you talk about the ministry, and I just begin to wonder, where is the Ministry of Health in all of this? You talk about committees, government setting up committees. You have committee, chairman committee on health, chairman committee on this and that. Then during that program, the report we got states that both the federal government and the Nigerian Medical Association lamented that, quote, the mass immigration of Nigeria-trained healthcare professionals is worrisome. Now, so I'm wondering, why is the lamentation coming, especially from the same federal government that stated it some months last year, I think it was in September, where the Minister of Labor, Dr. Chris Ngige, actually stated that, he said, and I will quote it from here, he said, so we shall make do with what we have. Okay, let me start from where he stated. He stressed that nothing was wrong with doctors leaving Nigeria. He was at that time stating that, so we shall make do with what we have. Yes, we have surplus doctors, we have surpluses. I keep on telling them that we have not deployed our medical manpower proportionately and adequately as we should. Now I'm just wondering, in just 1 year, how come we have this complaints of rarity?
Well, with all due respect to Dr. Chris Ngige, he's my senior colleague, and in medicine we have hierarchy. I will not join issues with him. He knows the truth, and I know the truth. And the fundamental fact is, another thing people don't understand is that Onwa, like I like to call him, is a jovial man. He jokes a lot. And so maybe this is one of his jokes.
Oh,
people misunderstood, may have misunderstood him. I don't think he went out to slight anybody. It depends on the conditionality and the environment upon which this statement was made. But I'm sure, you know now, everybody is saying the same thing, that there isn't enough. And apart from that, one thing I want to also point out is that, apart from the fact that there isn't enough, there's still a small pool that are jobless. They don't have a job because of bureaucracy. Okay? Now, we must declare an emergency in this sector. And that means taking away all unnecessary impediments towards smooth transitioning from not having a job to having a job when people that have the job have left. Why? You know, there's this so-called embargo in employment in the civil service. I say so-called because we wake up and people show up and they are working. And so it's a so-called embargo. It is, everybody knows it, but nobody wants to talk about it. Now, by the time you recruit people after suffering to get a waiver from here and there and everywhere, and they recruit them, and they all leave, you still have to go back to start the process of getting waiver to replace them. And that means now there are some people who, if you could quickly bring them in, will not leave. But by the time you leave them unemployed, you don't have enough hands, and some are unemployed out there. And you are telling stories of how they need to go through this. You need to be sure you remove their name from IPs. For God's sake, I don't know. So they need to cut down the bureaucracy. They need to set up a one-stop shop for the health sector, where if you leave, you report they have left, and they can quickly say take in, so that at least we discourage those that are jobless from going, hoping and praying they don't come with the mentality I see with many of the new doctors when they're hired. Because some of them come with the plan to just get more money and jackpot. So the money is not the issue. It's to bring the money for their visa and their flight ticket, and they go. But it's a risk we have to face. We need to give them job, at least. Let it not be said they left because they didn't have a job.
They get a job.
Yeah.
All right. So even according to the minister, it stated that Nigeria may not be able to meet up with recommendations of the World Health Organization on 1 doctor to 600 patients, since it's a developing country, not a United Nations country. So at least with what he said, are we ever going to get to that extent?
Well, miracles happen.
So you believe in miracles?
I believe in God of miracle. If we are still alive today, why not? But you see, miracles don't happen in training people. You don't consecrate someone a doctor. You know, they say it's a calling. But I've never seen anybody that knelt down and they laid hand on him and he got up a doctor, he will still be a quack. You need a certain period of training. And that is what we must decide to do to maximize the potentials we have. We are the most populous black nation. And so we cannot say we don't have people who are intelligent enough to read medicine. Go and see the score people get and they can't get admission into a medical school. 240, 230. They still can't go into medical schools because there is not enough. I love this concept of medical universities that have come into our system. I think they should exploit it further. Okay. It will be nice to have a huge institution for medicine such that we can have a high load carrying capacity and produce in large numbers. Unlike when you have it as a college attached to a university. It is smaller than if it's a medical university. So they should exploit it further. They should encourage the private sector to go into it. All these private universities, funny, by recent estimation, it's even a private university that have the highest carrying capacity for medical students. Not even the first generation universities we thought will have that carrying capacity. So let government help the current institutions to expand, to take in more. Let them help even the private sector. You see, if they could help buy shares into a man's refinery that is personal, why can't they invest in private universities that are helping Nigerian children to get education? And it will also help to reduce the entry score relatively, because everybody will now take the level they can afford to carry. And then we'll have more people going through medical school. And then we'll have more doctors.
Now, since you're talking about alternatives, now, is it actually possible to draw up from your profession or from your circle, actually get other people who are of this to voluntarily serve? Probably you have, you don't have to be a doctor. Probably you have people of other specialists. Is it actually possible to get people from that to at least help?
Become doctors?
Yes.
Well, they won't treat me. Maybe we'll draft them to treat you people and we see what happens. I'm not against it. You see, there's one, how long will an air hostess fly and you transfer them to become pilots? You're a cabin crew, you're a cabin crew. You can get to the zenith of being a cabin crew. That there is a deficiency of pilots doesn't mean you get into a flight and say, ladies and gentlemen, on this flight, because we don't have a pilot, we are promoting the head of the cabin crew to fly this plane. You will jump down. So that's what you're suggesting.
No. The reason why I actually asked that question is because of those who are into traditional medicine. Is it actually possible to bring them into the fold?
To become, well, the alternative medicine is in the fold. The only problem is that many of them don't want to really go and do proper alternative medicine. They want to go and bring Digboluja certificates and say you should. They have read alternative medicine, have a program, a curriculum, and duration, and is regulated by Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. So if you want to practice alternative medicine, go and learn it properly, then get certified, and you'll be registered to practice. Traditional medicine for now has no clear-cut definition. As we say in joke, it is of no fixed address. What is the dose? Why would one medicine treat headache, waist pain, diarrhea, fibroid, everything? So they should stop joking and get serious. There is this bill they are bringing about now to properly organize them. What we protested was the mistake in putting alternative medicine with traditional medicine. It's not the same. By law, alternative medicine is already under regulation of Medical and Dental Council. So you don't take it and join to traditional medicine. Traditional medicine is our own indigenous type of medicine, unlike allopathic medicine, which is what we practice, which is inherited but has become the orthodox, haven't been the routine for a long time, and everybody understands how it works, and you can teach it to another person. But now, traditional medicine, I support regulation of traditional medicine. I support standardization of traditional medicine. After all, some medicine we prescribe today in allopathic healthcare came from other people's traditional medicine. So for me, There is a joke I used to crack with my friends. I say, if only people will stop flying in the night as witches and convert it to aeroplane, we will be better off. I know witchcraft is a craft, aeroplane is a craft, but let me use the aeroplane. That's what I think. So they should focus and get it better. I will support that.
All right, now let's talk about medical tourism in Nigeria. We have a lot of people who have actually complained about this medical tourism. It's surging state, but then when they get into government, you find them doing the same thing that they complained about. And then you just begin to wonder, how much has this affected our health sector? Because we saw how much COVID-19 came in and then opened our floors. As a lot of people were able to see how much damage we have in the health sector. Thank God for Professor Yemi Osinbajo that actually recently decided not to travel out. But then we saw how much COVID-19 did. Then people could not travel anymore, travel out to Paris, to Dubai, or to UK to get medical attention and all of that. And then it even killed a lot of people. So let's talk about medical tourism. Now you're talking about how much your association will talk to these presidential candidates with regards to what they have. Medical tourism should actually be one of these things because we see how much it affects our forex and then our health sector.
Yeah, see, I don't allow myself to be hoodwinked into thinking that it was COVID that opened their eyes. They have always been eyes wide shut. Because as at 1983, when General Buhari came into power, he announced that one of the reasons why they took over was that our hospitals have become mere consulting clinics without adequate facilities. And from 1982 till today, it's still the same thing. So they can't say they don't know. His eyes wide shut. Their eyes are open, but they don't want to see. And like my father used to say, it's difficult to wake a man that is pretending to be asleep. To wake a man that is asleep is easy. But when a man is pretending to be asleep, you can't wake him. No matter what you do, he will continue snoring like that. So, thank God for COVID. But still, within the COVID period, you will see that their bad behavior also manifested. Because many of them refused to go to the proper designated centers and were able to force many private hospitals to open special wings for them because they are special people who must be treated specially and separately from those that elected them, which is the pity of the system. Right now, they are humble, pretending to love you.
Because it is a campaign period.
It is campaign. Don't let that 10,000 make you to make a terrible mistake. Don't allow 1,000. I'm talking now to the teenagers and the youths because they seem to forget easily. I remember once I went to vote in a particular institution because I vote in a university system because it's calmer and they're more responsible. Unfortunately, I was a young lecturer and consultant then, so they didn't know I wasn't a student. And so they called me among the students to come and take my 2,000 naira to vote. And I remember the question I asked the guy, who happened to be the student union president, student union government president of the institution. I said, are you married? He said, no. I said, I'm married. He said, eh? I said, yes. He said, do you have a car? He said, no. I said, that's my car outside there. He said, yes. I said, do you have a job? He said, no. I said, I'm a consultant. I'm your teacher. They say, you have a house? He said, no. I said, I have a house. I said, that's all you put in one basket for 2,000 naira. That's all we put in one basket for 5,000 naira. Not talking about good roads, good hospitals. We put all this together and 1,000 naira weighs heavily against it. We are a nation without conscience. See, stop blaming the politicians. We are the ones that are not serious and lack conscience. We are a nation that likes cutting corners. And therefore, it is an oral exercise to talk about good government. They only want it to be somebody they know that can favor them. And so, by the time it's election time now, they will go and line up again. Look at what happens in the states. And they will give them for 500, 1,000, and they vote. And tell you they have taken the one they can get. and then tomorrow they start crying. So essentially what I'm saying is that average Nigerians, since I came in as president of NMA, I've been interested in this electoral process.
Okay.
We need to sit up. Look, talk to yourselves. Tell yourself that we must get it right next year. If not, we're in trouble. So that's what I think. Let's even this, INEC is doing their bit for now, I must say. So the ball is now in our court. Let us borrow sense from Kenya that despite whatever the government in power did, they voted whom they wanted. Whether it turns out right or wrong is a different business. If that person doesn't do well, you vote him out in the next election. That is the simple thing. These politicians need to see the white of our eyes, like they say, and no longer the black section. We have suffered under their jackboot for too long. Look at the flooding. We have not discussed the health implications. We had to cancel the opening ceremony of Physicians Week and use part of the process.
Dr. Uche, like, as if you just already read my mind and know the next question I was going to ask. I was going to talk about the flooding and how the aftermath, how much it has affected a lot of people, the mental health, and then you have a lot of farmers who borrowed money, got loan from the Anchor Boroughs Forum, and then their farmlands have been submerged. So a lot of people keep asking, what is the enemy keep complaining of their own people? What are they doing with regards to helping people in this sector?
Wow, thank you. We were supposed to have the opening ceremony of Physicians Week in Bayelsa. We were supposed to start from 22nd of this month and end on 29th. With the flooding, I cancelled it. I don't see why I should be having fun when people are in this situation. I only directed the states to have a low-key commemoration. And part of our resources, we gave it to Bayelsa State NMA because Bayelsa was worst hit. At the end, they're inside the creek virtually, so they were cut off totally. And so we gave assistance to them. And from Tuesday till Friday, they were having medical outreaches, going to give people mosquito insecticide-treated nets. They gave soaps, water, drugs, and then also treated the people, essentially. And it also happened in Anambra. It happened in Kogi, Jigawa. We sent our people out to reach out to the people that are suffering. Okay? While the politicians continue campaigning, except one. Okay? Basically speaking, that shows you how sensitive they are. It took someone to remind them that people that will vote for you in a few months' time are sinking and drowning. Bayelsa was so bad. I wanted to go into Bayelsa. It wasn't feasible. As of yesterday, the east-west road have started drying because we are monitoring it. But the road is in shambles. The water has carried off the whole roadwork of the road. So Bayelsa is in trouble. And I think one question I asked myself is, how many floods will it take for our government to sit up and say there should be no more flooding? What does it take? When you talk about the dam issue, they say it's not dam. Okay, build the dam then. Dredge the Niger and Benue. It's not dredging it. Okay, dredge it, then let's see. Clear the water channels. The state governments must understand one thing. When the Meteorological Institute agency tells you there will be flooding, what it means is the silt, the ones rivers that are near you, clear your drainages. Those houses they build to block the drainage channels, take it off the pathway because it will come. And water must find its level. So this has been one flooding too many. Let government of Nigeria say that there will be no more flooding next year or in the next 2 to 3 years' time. And let me tell you, as of yesterday, we have put together a press release to remind government that infectious diseases will follow.
Exactly.
They should not pretend not to know now that infectious disease, National Emergency Management Agency should wake up and realize, because a place like Bayelsa, I gathered from what information I got, that coffins were seen floating, which means it exhumed dead bodies. And of course, this flood has mixed with natural water, body of water. And these people don't have pipe-borne water. And so they will drink it.
Oh, goodness me.
So let us try, even if it is a tanker, supply them water for now. Let them be able to get some water to drink. Okay? It will help. Let us also help them by teaching them that not to wander into that water, because some of these crocodiles and snakes have moved into the places of habitation. They need to be careful for now. Even if it is jingle, they should release jingles. So for us, our Committee on Awareness of Pandemics and Epidemics have put together a release that we will make either today or tomorrow, calling on government to please sit up and do what they should do. That's what you can do. We don't have the money to carry everywhere. We're not even well paid.
All right, before we let you go, let's talk about the state of Nigeria's health sector. A lot of people believe that the health practitioners themselves, they're the problems of Nigerians, because some people will tell you that if you go, I hate to use that word advanced countries, but then they tell you if you go to advanced country, just at the whip of a finger, you get ambulance or you get health service delivery. But in Nigeria, you just have to call and call and call. And when you get there, especially for pregnant women, you have nurses shouting down at them, you have auxiliary nurses, and then they keep complaining about how much even the health practitioners are a problem. How do we deal? How do you react to that?
Thank you very much. You see, I won't deny that things are not optimal as it pertains to communication between interpersonal communication between health workers and patients. Things are suboptimal, no argument. But some people are also okay. Like in NMA now, in our meeting in December at Asaba, we will have 2 days leadership retreat, which we have brought to bear. We want to talk to our people, bring in people to teach them leadership, teach them communication, the art of communication with people. That I'm angry with my wife doesn't mean I should be angry with you. Okay, I had a problem at home, don't bring it to work. Those things are okay, it helps. But another thing is this: a hungry man cannot smile. Think of where you go to the hospital where they are owing people salary. 1 month, 2 months, they are not paid. And you're expecting maximum cooperation. It's difficult. Think of a hospital where you go to, instead of having 20 nurses, they have 2. And these 20 nurses must take care of all of you, crying for pain, looking for injection, looking for drugs. It's difficult. So, suboptimal number of health workers is also part of the problem. Some health workers that have left this country will tell you. One thing I've realized is that many Nigerians that have never left Nigeria always use America as example. Emergency care health system is a policy to those developed nations. We need to adopt it too. There is something we are doing here about ambulance service, but I don't know, it looks like it has gotten into the flood and it has been taken away. So I call on the Ministry of Health to please quickly deploy the National Ambulance Service system they are working on. It will help. But you see, when it comes to elective treatments, I think we are still better than the developed nations. I'm a dermatologist, and I know that dermatologists outside this country, people call me from UK, US, say, please help. We are on a queue for 6 months to see a dermatologist. Our appointment is in 6 months. But an average Nigerian goes to work, finish his work, appear in the teaching hospital by 4:30 p.m. and say, you can't go. You are doing humanitarian service. You must come back and treat me. We have a sense of entitlement that is irritating. When you are late, you can't apologize. A whole lot of times, go to hospital, the appointment they give you is by 9 a.m., maximum 9. Because we are trying to make sure you come on time, because you're going to be many, so that we can know how to carry you and maximize it. But somebody will show up by 3 p.m. and say he had a quiz. Where do I slot you in? So sometimes our people need to also learn that our system is not perfect. But if we all work together, it will be okay. And then this penchant for beating health workers, attacking health workers must stop. They must stop. people look at a medical doctor and they beat him up. He can react too. There are facilities available to him that he can use to unleash terror on you, and you cannot recover. Definitely. So I think government should make a law against people attacking healthcare workers.
Okay.
At the World Medical Association conference that just finished in Berlin in the first week of this month, it was a serious national worldwide issue that is cropping up, violence against health workers. See, that you brought your own patient and he's crying, I'm dying, doesn't mean he's going to die. When you have a lot of patients to take care of, there's what we call triage, where you look at all the patients and you take decisions on who to see first. A lot of times, that patient that is thrashing about is still strong. That one that is quiet, lying down, is the one that will die before you finish what you're doing. So when you do a triage, based on the attitude of the patients, the time they came, and what you find with preliminary examination, you may tell the person that came first, sorry, wait. That's the person that will be seen first.
Okay.
And then they will say, no, it's favoritism, and then attack you. So we need to learn.
Dr. Uche, it's been a wonderful time having this talk with you. Thank you so much for your time.
God bless you.
All right, viewers, that's all we can take on the show today. We have been chatting with Dr. Uche Roland Ojinmah. He is the president of the Nigerian Medical Association. It's been a wonderful time here on The Conversation. I'm sure you must have been rightly educated and informed. I will see you again next time. Keep watching The Conversation because you never know who my next guest will be and what my next topic will be all about. Till I come your way again from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabelle Oji. God bless Nigeria.